Hi and welcome back to Bounce Forward with me, Tiff. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present. Today on the show is the wonderful Celia Pacquola. She's a comedian, an actor, writer, host of Thank God You're Here on Channel 10. You would have also seen her on Have You Been Paying Attention? And she's a dear friend of mine, has been for a while, works very closely with my husband on Thank God You're Here. And there's nothing this woman can't do. She's an absolute inspiration to me and so many other women out there. So welcome, Celia, to Bounce Forward. Celia, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Tiff.
You know my husband because you work together on Thank God You're Here, which is going right off. So tell me, what does the show mean to you?
Oh, gosh. What does it mean to me? What does Thank God You're Here mean to me? First and foremost, well, it's a job in my chosen career. Like that's sort of the first thing I think is there's no guarantees in this industry to actually have, there's do what you love and then there's do what you love to pay the bills.
Yes.
So I'm very appreciative and my role, there's only one person who can get that job, so I'm very grateful that it's my job and to have the structure of having such a fun workplace. Above and beyond that, it's like there's my comedy heroes. I watched this show before I did stand-up. I was in the audience for for season 4, watching it, and I'm still completely beside myself to be in the orbit of Working Dog, who so that's a huge part of it as well. So it means a lot. It really means a lot, and this second season has been so much more enjoyable because the first one was so much more fear and nerves because it was like auditioning, I didn't want to break this show. We didn't know how it would be received bringing it back, and I didn't know how I'd be received as the host. So that was really and also just figuring out how to do it. I've never hosted a show like that before.
How is hosting different to stand-up? Because I think like you're on stage, you're doing stand-up, you're so confident. How is it different?
It's very different. Now, firstly, I don't hold a microphone, which sounds like a small thing, but it's very strange. I spent the first 8 episodes trying to figure out what to do with my hands. Also, it's like stand-up is me representing me and doing jokes about me and stories and whatever I want to do, whereas this is not about me. My job is functional, is creating a warm and fun and safe environment where everyone knows what's going on. And I'm flight crew on this show. I like to think of myself as the smiling face who pushes people out of the plane.
Oh, my God.
So I was making sure everyone is comfortable and safe right up until they're not. So it's very different in that. And I've been asked to host many times before now, and I've always said no because I don't really have interest or enjoy being the one in charge or being the one who has to keep things, moving in control. But this is different. But I think it took the pressure off me knowing that it's a role that is functional. I just have I have a very specific job to do, which is make sure the right people go through the right doors, say their names correctly. But it's also I have to enjoy it. I feel like you can have a host who didn't actually like this show, and I just do like it anyway.
You look like you're having a great time and having so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's either some of my comedy friends, like actual best mates, 2 people who went through the door last season. I was best person at both of their weddings. You know what I mean?
Wow.
50% of the people on this show have held my baby.
Wow.
So half the time it's mates, and then the rest of the time it's either comedy legends who I'm not mates with, but I love and respect, like Ross Noble or, Hamish Blake or people like that. I am genuinely having a nice time.
Yeah. So let's talk comedy. Why did you get into comedy?
I don't know. There was no other options. It was always writing.
Mm-hmm.
For a while I thought I wanted to be an actor. This is at uni. But I liked comedy and everything I wrote. I followed Working Dog into the Melbourne Uni Law Review, which is a sketch comedy show, even though I neither went to Melbourne or studied law. but I was a big fan of them, of the Late Show and, Sketch and Judith Lucy and these kind of people. But I didn't know stand-up was a job. And then at uni, some friends and I started a theatre company, and then I thought I could write plays. And then I wrote my first play, and it was a very angsty and dramatic, when you're 19 and you're just like, I know everything.
Mm.
I'm the first person to have any of these meaningful thoughts, and I'm a genius, and this is art. And it was about the masks we wear, Tiff. And
Oh, wow.
And we put it on, and the audience laughed the whole way through. And I was very upset because it was not meant to be funny. And ever since then, I just went, maybe if I'm funny without meaning to be, what if I actually tried?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So that's sort of where it started. Well, and then I dated around that time. I met a comedian. I started dating a comedian, and he signed me up for raw comedy. And I got through my first heat, and I ended up at the national final at the town hall and won best first time entrant. So there was just something that sort of clicked with me. I was very prepared. My stand-up and my comedy and everything about me is always very prepared. It's like I want to go out there with, that was my process. I was like, if I can write something that on paper is a joke, that an expert will look at and go, yes, that is a joke for this, this, and this reasons, all I have to do is say it. That's it. To be armed with the best stuff anyway. And then it just sort of snowballed from there, just sort of everything. I just sort of kept doing it until I was just like, well, I'll keep doing this until it fizzles out. And now it's 15 years later, something like that.
That's amazing. Celia, you've spoken in your stand-up about meeting your partner on a dating app.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with me what was the first message?
Oh, I don't remember. Some of the very early chat, so it was a very wanky app, Tiff, that you may or may not know. Raya or Raya?
Oh,
or whatever.
yes.
I do
know that one.
You have to be like approved
Famous?
by the community. No, I mean, I don't know what it's based on. I think sometimes it's based on numbers of followers. I think it was like it's for fame. And I was only on there because I was on TV a bit and I was nervous to go on dating apps because it's going to sound so pathetic, but I was like, I didn't want people to go on a date with me for a dare. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want people like, oh my God, like I just imagined all these bros being like, she's the guy. So that's why, and then my friend was on it, who was Luke McGregor, I'm sure he won't mind you telling you. And I matched with no one except for him. So it was quite funny. We would text each other on the app and I'm like, man, I could just text you on the phone. But everyone on there was like entrepreneurs. There were people on yachts, just people who, not my type, and I was not theirs. Like my profile photo was me hugging a donkey.
Oh my God.
Because I'm not trying to trick you. I'm like, this is who I am. Anyway, so then Dara, who was the first person I matched with and the first person who sort of looked like a sort of normal, not that they're weird, but just like my type, like a kind of not on a yacht. He wasn't on a yacht.
Yes.
And I can't remember what we started texting about, but it was about, I think it was because he lived in Sydney. And so I was not going to date him because I did not want to have a long distance relationship. But I went, I'll just practice flirting because it was the first one in a long time. And we were talking about Bucks Dues because I lived in Melbourne and he was like, I'm coming to Melbourne soon for a Bucks weekend. And we're talking about all of the ridiculous things that they do, like go-karting or like clay pigeon shooting. I think they were going clay pigeon shooting. But it was a very good area for banter. It was a bit of a nice area for banter. And then we started chatting heaps and then he was going to meet me a week later when he came here for the Bucks and we were going to have a date. But then COVID, Bondi cluster happened and the war went up. So we didn't actually meet in person for 3 months.
Wow.
And then I was pregnant 2 months after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now you have a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
She's 2. Eleanor's 2, isn't she?
She's just turned 2 last week, yeah.
Yeah, wow. I have a 2-year-old too. I'm loving 2. 2's cute.
Mate, it's really
They're chatty. They're like proper little humans.
It's really fun, but we're getting the beginnings of sass moods.
Yeah.
So like grumpy, which is.
But that's cute too, right?
It is cute, but it's,
it's exhausting.
Very upset. And no, well, it's just like I'm seeing the beginnings of getting of tantrums or meltdowns about silly things. Like if it's, I don't know. But no, it's very cute. I'm loving it so much. She's a very silly little thing.
And like what I wanted to ask you, because it's hard. Like Ed's worked in radio and telly and stuff like that, and he kind of choosing what goes on radio or what is private always fascinates me. So how do you work out what's private and what you use for your comedy and that sort of boundary?
It's interesting, isn't it? There's other people in my life that I look at and go, how have you managed to be doing this for so long and not? Like Sam Pang's another really great example. He was on radio for years. I'm like, how?
Yeah, never. And then there's others that are just like it's all out there, and like I don't show my kids' faces on Instagram.
No, neither.
There's kind of, where do you go? It's hard.
I guess it's just your personal choice, and I'm learning very fast in anything with parenting. Any stand you make is going to piss someone off, Any position you take is going to, if people who aren't doing that will feel attacked or whatever, but you just got to make the rules that you're comfortable with. The one that I feel really sort of torn about is giving them meat. This is because I'm not a vegetarian, but it's a weird thing where I'm like, I just know the day's coming when they'll go, when they'll realize that chicken is chicken and go, how could I? And I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know, because
it's all hard.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. There's all this, and disposable nappies, all of the stuff. But you just go, right, I'm just going to do the best that I can do for my life and make the choices that whatever. But in terms of what I make public, it is tricky because when it's just me, I answer to me. So pretty much most of my life is open. I've got a few things that for me, but a lot of the hardest stuff to share is the stuff I find the most important to share, which kind of sucks. Sometimes something will happen and I'll go, no, this doesn't make me look good, but I think I think it's important that it's out there, which was a thing with the mental health stuff. Like before I started doing that, I wouldn't have talked about it. But then once I started, I went, oh, no, I could have been doing this. This is great.
It's so important, and it helps so many people, Celia.
It's the same with the kids stuff, but the parenting stuff I found, even because that's not about me and I'm not an expert. It's hard. And anything, I'm so scared of saying anything like for that reason. So even just putting my point of view forward, I don't want to lead people. I don't want to tell people how to do things, but I do want to share what mine was. And also you get this with I think it's important to talk about things about parenting that are hard, but I'm also aware of how saying anything about it being difficult, you don't want to come off as ungrateful. Like you have to be so grateful and knowing how many people really struggle to have children and all of that. So it's such a delicate area, but I think, which is why for my stand-up, I talk about it, but I make sure I spend a lot of time working on those bits,
Yeah, right.
The stuff that'll be trickier, I think it'll be as she gets older when she's her own person. Because at the moment, it's just been about any stand-up about her is really about me having a kid rather than about her as a kid. But it's going to be tricky when she gets older and she's going to do some real funny stuff and she's going to go, I'm going to go, please let me tell strangers about that.
Use that. Yes. Okay, we're going to leave our chat with Celia just there for now, and I'll be back in a couple of days with part 2 of my awesome catch-up with Celia Pacquola. Thanks so much for listening to Bounce Forward. I love having your company, so please DM me on Instagram at tiffhall_xo and let me know what questions you'd love me to cover. Don't forget to rate and review me on your podcast app. Speak soon. Happy days.